Hello and welcome to GameGuru live broadcast. We don't have any more numbers. We left the number count after 100 or so. So welcome everyone. Thanks for joining us. This is our regular end of month live broadcast about progress that's been going on in the world of GameGuru Max for the most part. I split it up into a couple of different sections, keep things nice and organized. The first part is really about what you guys have been doing. If there's any news that you would like me to share in these broadcasts, just send it along in an email and I'll check it out. And if it's good enough, we'll put it up and make that the first top of the bill. And then I talk a little bit about the progress that have been going on in the last 30 days. And finally, and this is the real crux of these broadcasts, an extended Q&A where you get to ask as many questions as you want about the project and I get to answer some of them. Sometimes the answers are right. So that's the basic format, and we dedicate most of we try and aim for like 1 hour to the Q&A, so you get the maximum opportunity to ask your questions and to check out the software in more depth, find out what's going on. But before any of that, I just want to check some background stuff. Boring, I know. I just want to make sure that everyone can hear me fine, and I think everybody can. I'm looking at the chat and no one's really alarmed. Or maybe they're just watching a blank screen with no sound and just waiting for news. I'm not going to ask if anyone can hear me. Eventually it's going to become apparent that I'm talking to myself, but I'm looking at the software, everything looks pretty good. So I'm going to assume everyone can hear me just fine, and then we can move on to the first part. And the first part is showing off what has been sent to me by email. This is from our friend in the community, Felix. He's produced something that I think is rather cool. He's hosting it on the asset store, and I wanted to show it off because I think it's pretty awesome. So without further ado, I'm going to go to the place. It's the Game Creator Store. You can check that out. You can see the web link. That's easy enough to find. I'm just going to run the video. Really easy for me to do live broadcasts if all I do all day is play some video, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. So let me press play and maximize. So what you're seeing here is one of the two weather techniques that Felix has improved, specifically, if you've not already guessed, the snow. Rather than just some rather brutal downward flowing snow, this snow is fluffy. It floats about, it's subtle, it's not harsh, it blends in nicely if you have a snow scene. So I highly encourage you to check it out. It is really quite cool. And the reason it is this good is Felix is probably going to use it in one of his own projects. So he wanted to make sure that it was top draw. So I'll just show you this. This is where you'll find it on the Game Creator Store. Realistic rain and snow weather particles for GameGuru Max. So type in some or all of that term into the search bar at the top and you'll be able to find it. And if you like it, go check it out. Really cool stuff. So that's what I wanted to show, and I'd like to do more of this. If anyone else has anything they'd like to share, maybe it's some content that they've put up on the internet and they want to tell the world of GameGuru Max users, then this is the forum to do it. And if it's not something you don't really want to be live broadcasted, I'm also happy to put it on Discord and just make a mention with a link so people can go and check that out as well. Quite happy to be your servant in this area. So thank you very much, Felix, for your efforts, your continued efforts. I'm looking forward to seeing what you come up with next. And the last tab I just want to go to before I talk about progress, because it is related, is the progress. If you remember last month, I think there was 130 bugs or something. Well, we got down to 84 bugs, which I was really pleased with, charging towards the 50 bug count, which is another of my mini milestones. And then some new bugs was reported and some old bugs was reopened. So currently, as of today, 7 p.m. plus, we're at 92 bugs. Currently. There's no guarantee that will go down, it may even go up. But we are full force, top priority now. Well, priority 1, 2 and 3 are all bug fixing. So we're trying to get this number. We passed the 100, which was one of the mini milestones. The next mini milestone is to get less than 50. So we're aiming for 49. I'm aiming for 42. And for anyone who knows me knows why I'm aiming for 42 bugs. If we can keep at 42 bugs forever, that would be pretty cool. But of course, everybody wants 0 bug count, which is the real aim, to fix all of the bugs so that we can focus our energies on the fun stuff, which is feature requests. And I'll talk more on that in the future. Right now, let's just get a little bit obsessed about fixing all these bugs. So we're currently at 92. In the last 30 days, we actually have done a couple of things. Yes, bug fixes, but also along the way, it's inevitable that small functionality improvements will occur. And that's what I want to show today, along with the bug fixes. Showing a bug fix as a presentation is probably not the most exciting. So it is nice to show something new that you've not seen before. Just going to check the back end stuff. Yeah, okay, everyone is still around. I'm always conscious of the fact that 10 minutes into the broadcast, everyone leaves to make a cup of tea, and I end up just talking to myself. So let me show you a couple of things that I'm pretty interested in to share with you today, which is the melee and projectile hit detection. If you've noticed in the past, a character would like swing a spear or a melee weapon, and then 10 years later the respondent actually reacts. Well, I tightened that up and I'll show you how I did it too. So you got these two guys here fighting it out. One's an ally and one's an enemy. So I just put them far enough away that the enemy doesn't try and attack me. And you'll see what's happening is that spear guy, I think that's my ally, his strike is synchronized with the reaction of the enemy. That might seem obvious, like, of course it should. Well, actually, it was a bug for the longest time that these weren't synced up. And when you did get a strike from a melee attack, the enemy wouldn't actually have any blood splat coming out of it. So it's all a bit fluffy. Now it's been tightened up. Now the spear guy is a definite advantage. I've given my ally the spear and the other guy has a crowbar, I think. So obviously, yeah, that guy has a longer range. What I can try and do is get this weapon, stop the spear guy from taking advantage. But of course, I could, yeah, I changed the weapon so it only had like 1 bullet reload. But the enemy is now obsessed about hitting me, so thank you very much. But you get the idea. If he could get a swing in, then you'll find that the crowbar connected with me or the enemy and it syncs up rather nicely. Notice I escaped just as it was running back towards the ally to give him a bit of a clout. Let me show you how that works actually. And the reason why he was getting a lot of sync delay, and this is a useful command for the future as well. Anyone who doesn't know, some of the behaviours that are created aren't created just in pure Lua script. They're created in something what we call the behaviour editor, which can be edited like so. I already know that one of the characters at 64. And if I scroll down, you'll find you've got a damage state, which is here. And this is the magic thing which I added. It's called a logic boost. Now, the way the behavior editor runs its behavior logic is each of these is an instruction block. And each of these instruction blocks are executed 1 block per frame. Right? So here was the problem. Damage was registered, but then it would take 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 or 8 instructions later that you actually saw things like a sound effect or an animation that was triggered to play. That's 6 frames. If you was on like some really slow system running at 30 frames per second, that's a noticeable gap between someone getting hit and seeing the first reaction of it in a form of animation or any kind of registration of the impact. What the logic boost instruction does, it says, do not leave the frame. I want you to stay here until you've run at least 4 additional instructions. So that's why you can see it go, it flashes yellow. Then the next time you see yellow is much further down, in this case here, for always face target, set a path, and then random. The reason I haven't set that number bigger, so it actually lands at, say, a sound effect or an animation, is look at the branch. It could branch off in this direction, and the first thing you want to see or hear is the sound and then an animation. So I set it to the lowest of the numbers that would make sense. It's a dangerous command in a way because you don't want to skip things that you need to then happen in the scene. But you can skip through all the stuff, all the logic stuff like check a variable, check a range, check an angle. All that stuff can be done within this logic boost. But then as soon as you start to see something like a sound effect or an animation or anything that's going to happen visually in the scene, you kind of want to stop at that point. Which is why I left this number open so you could actually put in the one you want. And the net result of that logic boost instruction is I can skip past all that and go straight to the damage detected, boom, immediately do something for that particular character. It's not just characters, it's anything. It's just that for now and right now, that was the one that everybody noticed. The lag between a character doing some melee action and then the target of the action waiting. It seemed like a second. It was a lot less than a second, but it felt a lot longer. Just didn't feel right. Now at least they're synchronized. They can have a good scrap, and it also works with the player as well. So that's one of the things that we tightened up, and obviously functional additions and bugs sometimes can go very much hand in hand. A true weapon object drop, which is the next thing I want to demonstrate, is not in one of these little projects, is in this one, Island Showdown. Just to let you know, there's going to be a public update this week. So we've been playing around with the EXP builds for the longest time. I've just got a notification of OBS Studio reconnecting and disconnecting. And I ain't talking for another second unless I know I have an audience. Thank you very much. So let me just see what OBS is doing to us, people. So OBS looks like it's still streaming. I'm going to have a look at another page that you can't see but I can. And what I'm seeing on screen is what's on the broadcast. I'm going to assume everyone can hear me and see me and we're still in sync. If OBS is disconnecting seemingly at random, it may be you missed some section of this broadcast. These are technology problems completely outside of my control, and so we're just going to have to live with it. So I'm just reading the chat, and if I scroll back up a little bit, I see it as well. Same. We are still watching LOL. 42 only works if you've got your towel. Thank you, Monkey Frog Studio. We are still watching. Same. I see it. Gone mad. Same problem. Yup. You're back. Yeah, I did. You have an audience. Back, back, back. No interruptions. Blah, blah, blah. Yes, I can hear you. You did a little. So for anyone who's not seeing the live chat and wondering what the smeg is going on, it looks like OBS temporarily disconnected and then automatically reconnected. Some people saw the interruptions, some people didn't. But I wanted to make sure no one was actually missing anything. So I think we're back on track, actually. I am looking at the live broadcast and it's running like a completely different video. Maybe it's reset. Okay, so maybe OBS has gone mad. I'm going to carry on. You know, as they say in show business, the show must go on. Well, I'm going to let the show go on, so there. But I am going to open up another screen just to make sure that it is proceeding apace. So getting back to what I wanted to show, which was the true weapon drop. If I run Island Showdown, and it's stuff you may have seen before, because you've all have played the demos. I am quite sure of that. And we're going to kill the first few couple of characters in this level. The author, Ghostlol, has improved this level slightly for us. Now you'll notice, see the gun on the floor? In the past, that was it was a fake. The character dropped and basically just represented the gun, and you run over it and you collected it. But that wasn't the gun object. That was just something we put there so you can quickly snap up the weapon and get the ammo. But that didn't really work in all cases, and it wasn't really something we wanted ultimately. So now that is the real weapon, as if you'd have placed the level down, weapon down in your level as a real weapon object running the weapon script. So when I collect it now, that text that you saw at the bottom, before it was hard-coded, now it's actually taken from the weapon script, which means, of course, you can change that weapon behavior and do what you want with it. Now, that extends to the snub nose, which is, I think this guy has it. So now there's the snub nose. Let me just clear the area a little bit. I think he has the snub nose. So when I collect that, I've improved it slightly, so now it'll auto switch to the weapon that you've collected. I don't really want to start again, so I have to kill him. And I think I'm safe now, out of earshot. And as I said, the text that you read, that's actually from the script, not from a hard-coded situation. And that actually took quite a lot of work too, because basically what's happening is the character is spawning an object. It's creating the object out of live in the game and then dropping it with its script intact so that they can run along, and it was set to auto collect, but you could change that to manually collect the weapon if you wanted to. It's just for convenience and the speed at which shooters happen. You kind of want to just run over the character and it will auto collect the weapon, arm it, and then you can carry on. But obviously it's fully customizable now. You can change that to whatever it is that you want. And the reason I mention that is there's another cool thing. Now this is an out-and-out feature edition, and I apologise for those who really just wanted to see bug fixes. But as I said before, sometimes bug fixes and functional additions kind of go hand in hand. And for that reason, once the weapon drop was done properly, it opened the door up to something called loot drop. And let me show you what I'm talking about. So I've got a golden goblet here. You may have remembered this from a previous broadcast where I went underwater and I found a secret cave with a gold goblet, and then I can go to another level. Well, it's that level. There's the gold goblet. I could collect that. But what I want to do is when I kill these two characters, I want them to drop lots of gold goblets. And you'll find that in the behaviors. Set your character creator. In fact, any character will have this. If you go to the bottom of the behavior area, you'll see a new tick box called Player Can Take the Loot. And if you tick that, you get some drop downs. And you can have up to 10 objects that can be dropped, and each of the objects has a percentage chance of dropping. Currently set it to 95% for demonstration purposes, so it'll actually drop rather than it mostly not dropping, otherwise we'd be here all day in the broadcast. And it's set to gold goblet. I can set another gold goblet. You notice it gives me another drop down. I can have as many as I want, and I can set these and have up to 10, like I said, and I can delete them just by setting choose collectible, and it'll remove it, so you can create your list of dropped objects, and obviously set your percentage as you might do with your slider. And you'll also notice I've got Player Can Take the Weapon, so it's going to drop the weapon Aiko is carrying. Same with this one, so currently dropping just one gold goblet. I'm going to go a bit crazy now and say drop 5 or 6 to prove the thing. Now obviously you won't have every enemy in your game dropping an object. This will be like an end of level boss or some mission quest creature that has a lot of cool stuff with a percentage drop possibility. But you get the idea. This is pretty standard trope for games. Let's run that, see what we can do to get our goblets. So we'll kill first character. Remember, this is gun drop. As it was dropping, it was within the range vicinity, and I managed to pick up the gun even before it hit the ground. And you can see out collecting the goblets that were dropped, plus this goblet which was sitting around. I kill her, and she's dropped, I think it was 6 goblets. So that's a loot drop, all 100% probability, so they all got dropped. And if you go to the inventory, you can see we got lots of lovely goblets in our inventory, and maybe if we went to a shop, we could sell them for boon. But yeah, loot drop, not necessarily a bug fix, but when we did the proper weapon drop, loot drop became such an obvious thing to do. And there was a request from someone who is kind of working on a game, so these are the litmus tests that we use to decide how far do we push bug fix into brief functionality additions to extreme functionality additions. But I think that's a really cool one, really lends itself to RPG. And I'm glad to have added it along the way. Not only fixing bugs, but making sure that GameGuru Max stays interesting month in, month out. And the last one I want to show, this was a request more from our professional game developers, the ones who are actually working on massive, not only massive game projects, but also creating their own art. They don't want stock media. They're creating everything from scratch. And the one thing they noticed is every time they added new files into the GameGuru Max writables area, because you know they're creating models, creating sounds, creating behaviors, but they had to keep leaving GameGuru Max and relaunching it to see those new selections. Well, now we've got this, and I'll show you how to get it too. So if you go into Edit and Settings and Developer, where it says Show Additional Developer Options, if you tick that box, you get all of these things, and I've put a little comment in so you see what they are. The auto refresh, which I'm going to show you now. Physics debugging, so you can see ragdolls. Developer mode tools, that spans the whole of the editing process. And save anim templates, very advanced stuff, not very documented right now. Suffice to say, this is about the deepest the software gets right now when you tick this on. And when you tick that on, one of the things that you see when you go into your library is a new button. It shoves this button in called refresh, and that when selected takes a bit of a time because there's a lot of stuff in the libraries. It scans all the files. If there's any new files, it adds them to your selection and you can carry on. No more leaving GameGuru Max and getting back to where you was. You can actually create your content. Just go here, click that button, and it refreshes it. Now, I hear you ask, why don't you do that automatically? Because look how long it takes. If I click that, 1 second, 2 second, 3 second, 4 seconds. That's 4 seconds with mostly stock and DLC content. Imagine if you had 30, 40 gigabytes of media, that would take longer. So if it was automatic, it would freeze your software when you alt-tabbed back in, which is why it's on a button, and I think it was the right decision. So those are the things that I wanted to show today. I am conscious of the fact, even though I promised most of the time of this broadcast will be given over to Q&A, I'm going to blame OBS because OBS stole 3 minutes, and even with that deducted, we're still going to have most of the time for Q&A, which I think is the coolest part. So those are the things I wanted to if you've got any questions on these, by the way, and there's still time to ask those questions. Usually people ask questions at the 58th minute of the broadcast and probably doesn't get an answer. But halfway through the broadcast, if you do ask a question, you're probably going to get an answer. I think that's pretty standard, at least from my experience, if you ask a question now, even if it's something that I've demonstrated in the last 20 minutes. So because I'm now conscious of OBS playing silly buggers, I'm also going to check the stuffs again. But before I do any of that, I'm going to move over because it is technically a question. First question, are we actually still broadcasting? So without further ado, let's go to the Q&A. Okay. Let's see where we are. Well, stage 1, we want to see all the lovely live chats that we've got. If you've been tuning into previous ones, you'll find this is a bit of a faff because I have to manually go find the chat window, which is not always great viewing, but it's a small price to pay until OBS can do some really good auto detect. I have researched it. It seems OBS can only get the exact title, but if the URL changes in any way, it loses its ability to auto connect to a chat window. Oh, absolutely. Please post on YouTube if you think I'm talking rot. And actually, there's a perfectly easy way to do that in OBS. OBS actually has been nagging me to update the software for quite some time. Maybe the function I've been moaning about is actually in one of those updates, which is perfectly acceptable. So let's see what you have to say. And we're going to have to skip over that whole OBS thing. I am at the bottom of the live chat right now, and I'm watching a couple of double question marks. But it looks like chat's proceeding normally. There's not screaming and yelling about nothing's going on and I can't hear anything, I can't see anything. So I'm going to assume everything's cool and normal. Cool and normal. Okay, let's start at the top and let's see what we got. In terms of questions, that is. So the screen is blurry. I apologise. This is amazing. People like blurry screens, apparently. Luke's cool, thank you very much. We're still watching. Okay, I think that's the first question, isn't it? From James H. Am I the only one seeing a clear stream but blurry version of Street Fighter in background? Same. I see it as well. Moving things are blurry. You know what I think may have happened? No. I was going to suggest that maybe we lost the chat because of OBS resetting, but just in time. I remember that was the first one. So the first question is actually about we're losing all our daylight in the UK, and I can confirm that. It's look out the window right now, it's already dark. So end of summer for us, alas. But we had some good sunny days, and for the UK that's pretty good to say we got a handful of sunny days. We count ourselves blessed. Okay, let's see if we can find an actual question. An actual question about GameGuru Max. And the first question mark lands with Requiem for Raven Holm. No GameGuru Classic question mark. So you will find GameGuru Classic on Steam. It is available. It is at 0 bug count, or as close as we can get it. We release 4 updates a year for GameGuru Classic, and we aim to fix all the bugs that are reported up to that update. So just check out Steam for GameGuru Classic. You will find it. It exists, it is extant, and you can use it all the time. Okay, looking for a question mark, and I ain't found one yet. Maybe this will be the shortest Q&A in history, and let's all blame OBS for that. Question out the blue, buoyancy. 4 question marks and 3 exclamation marks. I think you're in reference to those goblets that were rolling into the water. There is buoyancy, but not highly configurable. Most things will kind of sink. They'll hit the water and they'll slow down because they're hitting a no gravity and then the mass of the object, but they all generally sink. Buoyancy is a tricky one, especially good buoyancy. So right now GameGuru Max does not support any kind of serious buoyancy, although it will change the motion of an object once it hits the water before it sinks to the bottom. Now this looks like a question from ODND Software. With the community-based development for App Game Kit, should we expect every half year a bug fix release like GGC? Bug count is quite high now. Also, will AGKS for Linux Mac keep getting updates? This broadcast is really generally about GameGuru. I have not prepared any notes for App Game Kit. I assume this is in reference to the recent release, the news update about how development for AGK is going to move forward. I'm thinking 4, not every half year, probably 4 updates a year for the bug fix release. But yes, it will be very similar to how we operate GameGuru Classic, which is where we want to make sure that it's still available, it's still supported, and it has its bug fixes. But we have what we basically call a feature freeze. So if you're looking like App Game Kit is the thing that's going to get 10 new things, that's not going to be the case. However, you will still be able to use App Game Kit to write your computer programs and then export those and have them running on Android and iOS and the other platforms. And we'll be looking to make sure that it's stable for as long as it's viable to do that, because for all the time that we have these products, they sit on top of a platform, and that platform has a tendency to change over time, which is why, for example, we don't support Windows XP anymore. And Apple is rather aggressive in discontinuing older operating systems. So there will become a point in which that product is locked to those platforms. Because the development requirement to actually effectively rewrite large chunks of your underlying technology is beyond the scope of what we call a feature freeze. So I apologise if I just took a bit of an aside to talk about App Game Kit, but I did want to answer that question because it was a very recent news announcement. Another question, no question mark, but I think it is a question. When will better optimization come to GameGuru Max, in particular for open world games? There are no plans to change GameGuru Max to be an open world engine like World of Warcraft or GTA 5. That's never going to happen, I don't think. For that, you're going to need someone at the order of magnitude of Rockstar Games who can do that kind of thing. We're not that kind of team. I mentioned order of magnitude. Think 2 orders of magnitude between the size of our little group and someone like Rockstar Games, who are probably, disputably, one of the best in the world at open world technologies. It's a big thing to bite off and chew. So there's no ambitions to become this super open world system. GameGuru Max, however, will be good at sort of the single player missions with level after level after level. We could probably manage that. And coming back to your original point, and you're absolutely right, there's a lot of issues being reported in regards to performance. And performance is something that, once the bugs are done, and I have actually deliberately separated the bugs that we're fixing now as high priority and performance and optimization. Because you can have something that's slow, but it still works. I'm not saying it's acceptable, but there's things that are literally broken, and there's things that are just, they could be faster, or they could be a lot faster. So I've separated those two things. Once the bugs are done and things are no longer broken, straight onto performance and optimization. And there are a lot of opportunities, I think, to speed up all aspects of the current games engine. So if you want a timeline, look for that. Once all them broken things go away, you'll start to see performance work happen. And there'll be small gains in some areas, but massive gains in other areas. Reason being, there's no point having a game maker that, yeah, it produces a game that isn't broken, but it's so slow no one can play it. That's not a game maker. So it's all part of this high priority bug fixing. And when I say bug fixing in that sense, it's like all the issues currently on the issues board. And a good chunk of them are performance related. There's another larger chunk that's just pure out and out feature requests. I'm not including those in this. So you can see there's a strata. The most important broken things in a bug report form. Then that next strata, performance, and then the last strata, new things, feature requests and the like. So hopefully that answers the question. Okay, Extreme Strategy puts 2 question marks in a line. I'm not really sure how to answer that question. I apologise. The next one, CDEWEYH. Is it possible to add an in-game text editor for certain types of puzzle games? An in-game text editor? Like you're playing your game and then you suddenly open up Notepad and start typing out text? There are no plans to do that. There's no plans to add Notepad right in the middle of your game. I think there's probably more gamey flavoured things to add first. Mr. Vi. I remember Mr. Vi. I have missed a few GameGuru Max live streams. How good is the GameGuru Max engine for 3D PG first person? Oh, I'm too humble to answer that question. I will let the rest of the community answer that. I think it has a way to go. I think there's a lot more we can do. You have, I would call it, rudimentary RPG capabilities, and the only way to know if it's right for you is to try. You know, when a lot of things are facts and fact-based, other things are subjective. It's down to one's own personal opinion. I'm going to call it rudimentary. You could do some sort of RPG right now, but it doesn't touch what AAA are doing in the RPG realm right now. And I think that's a bridge that we could probably close, a gap we can reduce over time. Vince asks, question, any plans to add support to upload third-party assets to Game Creator in Max? Will you add more behaviours for animals like spiders, third-party assets to Game Creator in Max? Yeah, it is one of our policies now to support third-party artists to produce DLC, and if that DLC is good enough, to make it an official DLC and make it available through Steam. And that is an ongoing process. You'll find you may already have found actually, the DLCs we've previously released. We plan to release quite a lot of DLCs up to Christmas. There's a lot of third parties we have discovered, contacted, invited, cajoled to ask, would you like to create some art and then make it available for GameGuru Max users? And usually it's a resounding yes. And in fact, one of the DLCs, I don't know much to say, but it is exactly what you've just asked for. Behaviours for animals for spiders. Well, that behaviour would be useless without an actual spider model to run around and obey the instructions of that behaviour. And I have recently been testing a spider running around. Really nice model animation and model and behaviour. So keep an eye out for that. It is happening in the background, and I don't know. I'm going to reserve any more words. I'm going to let the original author maybe spill the beans on that. But yeah, don't hold your breath on that one. It's not too far away. In fact, do hold your breath on that one. It's not too far away, I suspect. Right, here's a question from Monkey Frog Studio. Oh no, this is a response to another question. You can import models in OBJ, FBX and GLB, which is the GLTF binary format. Sounds in a variety of formats. GameGuru Max set out to let users import more, to enable users to import a lot more than GameGuru Classic could. Reason being, in GameGuru Classic we produced tens of thousands of assets. And at least according to the Steam community, that wasn't enough. And so we realised there's no way we can produce every single model everyone wants all the time, forever. And so we thought, well, obviously importing technology is important. So if we can't deliver millions of objects, if we provided the tools to let you find and import your own objects, that would solve the problem. And which is why GameGuru Max has had a specific emphasis on supporting the import process. It's not by any means as robust as I would like, but it gets you started. And the aforementioned formats is a good starting point. FBX is quite a deep format. There's a lot of old FBX formats that just don't really cut it these days. But say if you was exploiting an FBX from MakeHuman or Blender or Mixamo, we're okay to support those. But even within that, there are all different versions of FBX. So just take everything with a pinch of salt. Just because you see you've got a model in OBJ, doesn't necessarily mean it's exactly going to look like you would think it would look when you import it. Importing is kind of like translating from one language to another. Never quite get the full context and meaning across 100%. Maybe you'll get 90%, you gotta live with it. But it's an ongoing process, especially as these formats evolve in parallel to the development of GameGuru Max. So here's a question. Is it a question? No, I think it's just a statement. Let me just scroll down the live chat a little bit more. Unless we're broken again. No, we're okay, we've still got some more chat. Here's a question mark from another one from Mr. Bai. Is it possible to program, brackets, Dirt Basic language in GameGuru Max? It is not possible to program Dirt Basic in GameGuru Max as much as you might want it to be so. We do have something called the Lua scripting language. It was super popular back in the day, probably less so now, but very capable. Lua is a very capable scripting language, and we support it thoroughly with our many, many hundreds of additional commands. And you'll find it in the .lua format. Go into script bank in the root, and you'll find lots and lots of scripts. That is the script language that we use. There's a lot of hard-coded assumptions in the engine. Otherwise, it wouldn't be a game engine. It would just be a graphics engine, and here's a scripting tool. So we do a lot of stuff inside the engine itself to call it a games engine, but that's never going to be enough, which is why we use the Lua scripting language to let you then customize the actual game logic. So things like turn the sky red and play this zone and transport that object from there to there. There's a lot of code that goes on in the background, but we kind of provide it to you in like one command in the Lua scripting language, which I think is a nice compromise between writing it all yourself, not being able to customize anything. So we use the Lua scripting language for that. Okay, question mark. The next question mark is from Rednib Coding. Hi, I missed a few streams. Seems like a lot of people are missing a few streams, but you're more than welcome. What is the current state regarding third-person 3D RPG? Well, let's assume everything GameGuru Max is 3D. There's no plans to do seriously 2D stuff. We're very much entrenched in the 3D world. But breaking that out apart, third-person RPG. We've done RPG. Like I said, we've got rudimentary RPG in there. So I guess the question boils down to when we're going to get third-person perspective. It's not a huge amount of work, not in the sense that multiplayer, which no one's asked about yet, which I'm quite surprised, is a huge job. RPG, you'll find some people in the community have already done third-person perspective gaming. They've basically got a character, assigned it some script, moved the camera behind that character, and running around. To great effect, actually. I'm quite impressed. That's what's been going on in the community. We do plan to do third person. That was never really a question mark. It was a question of when we did it. And we decided, and most of the community went along with this decision, let's fix all the bugs first. Once them are done, we'll look at the feature requests. And third person is a recurring feature request, and it's a strong game feature that when we add it, a lot of cool looking games can emerge from it. So we're taking it very seriously, but we're taking bug fixes more seriously. So don't worry about it, it's happening. It's just a question of when. Okay, I think there's a question mark buried under this arrow that maybe you can see. Well, I can certainly see it because it's hiding the text. Here we go. This is from Scrub Life Games. Is there a way to make multiple levels and have them return the player back to the first level but in different locations on the map? I'm going to read that one twice because there's a lot in here. Is there a way to make multiple levels? Yes. And have them return the player back to the first level? Yes. But in a different location on the map? Yes. You can do all that in GameGuru Max. It's not like super intuitive. You kind of have to know a few gadgets and things. But you create the levels, you connect them up, you drop those gadgets in, and you can have that as part of your game logic. That's not going to be a problem. If you have more questions on that, and you will, go into Discord. There's a lot of very knowledgeable people there who'll be able to give you the clues, and then have a play around, and you'll get it working, and you'll be happy. Great memories of DV and DV Pro. Yeah. Long time ago, Dare Basic. Monkey Frog Studio, I may have missed it, but how do you add custom drop objects other than the goblet, weapons, etc.? They're collectibles. I get to demonstrate. Hooray. Thank you, Monkey Frog Studios. So, when I talked about this, the goblet, and when I selected a character behavior and go to the bottom, and I could select these, the question is, how do I make my object show up on this list? Well, it's anything that's a collectible. If you go to collection items list in the drop down, these are all the collectibles. Weapons are automatically added because you kind of need them to be dropped, and dropped things are now collectibles, so those are auto added. But you have to manually add any other object that you may want to drop. So for example, let's say I wanted to drop this key, for example. Never a good idea to drop a key that's quest mission critical at less than 100% probability, and even then I probably won't have a character drop a key, just in case it drops in between a gap and you can never actually get to the key. But I digress. So we've dropped a key, go into general, make it is collectible. As soon as you do that, you got a collectible settings. But you have to want to add it to your collection list. So create collection item, and then you can fill in all the details. And it joins the pantheon of asset that's more RPG than shooter. Because now you can sell this key. You can buy this key from a shopkeeper. This key could be part of an ingredient set to create a bigger key. You get the idea. And you need to make it a collection item. And once you've made it a collection item and then it's a key, then you can actually select your character and go down to behaviors, and we've already got 3 goblets dropped, but then you'll be able to select antique key brass and the probability of dropping that antique key on the floor at 100%. So you get the idea. So it's just a collection item list that you've got to observe. It was actually initially part of the RPG, but as often is the case, there is a Venn diagram of crossover between RPG, shooter, racing, and adventures and puzzles and all the rest of it. And so we found that it was equally useful back in the shooter genre as it essentially is in the RPG genre. So that's how you add things to the loot list, and you can add them as you see fit at that point. Okay, another question right underneath from Requiem Ravenhall. What's currently going on with GameGuru Classic? GameGuru Classic was a product we created and released in 2015. We released it on Steam. We continued to work on it, add features and fix bugs. A couple of years ago, I think about 2 years ago, we got to bug 0, which means we fixed all the bugs, and we feature froze it. So now GameGuru Classic exists as a relatively bug-free game maker that you can use to create games that have a lower system requirement. That means it runs on older computer machines, and we release 4 updates a year to fix any new bugs that are reported from GameGuru Classic land. We eventually wanted people to migrate from Classic to Max, because Max is our most recent game maker, but we found a lot of people like GameGuru Classic, had projects they were working on in GameGuru Classic, and wanted that community to continue. And so we were very happy to do that, which is why we set up a policy of fixing all the bugs that were reported and release 4 updates per year. I'm going to keep GameGuru Classic running along for as long as there is a community who wants it to exist. And that is what's going on with GameGuru Classic right now. And the inevitable question, it was only a matter of time, guys and girls, when multiplayer? There are no plans to add multiplayer into version 1 of GameGuru Max. We will assess multiplayer once we've fixed all of the bugs, and we've also looked at all of the feature requests that pertain to the current ideologies of GameGuru Max, which of course is first person and potentially third person single player gaming. Once we have exhausted the requests to make a game maker that can produce those things, then we'll look at multiplayer and see if it's a viable option to go in that direction. As I've said in numerous previous broadcasts, multiplayer, once upon a time, was super simple. It was deathmatch. It was 4 players in an arena shooting the smeg out of each other. Now multiplayer is a whole genre. In some respects, it's overtaken the single player genre. But right now, what you're looking at in GameGuru Max is predominantly, entirely at the moment, a single player game maker. If you're looking to do multiplayer games, GameGuru Max right now, today, is not the place for you. Any more multiplayer questions? Let's move on. Okay, so can create their own user interface? Sure. The lower script commands I previously mentioned are quite robust. I already know people are creating their own buttons and in-game display screens and the like. And you can even change the scripts in the game screens as well. So it's all Lua scripts. So if you know how to script in Lua, you can create your own UI. The commands that you can use are not exhaustive. It's not designed to do 2D games. It's not designed to do a lot of 2D UI. But there's enough there that lets you display things, display text, images, detect clicks, detect where the mouse is and things like that, which is kind of the essentials of what you need to create your own UI if you wanted to. Okay, another question from Vince. Oh, I'm also checking the clock. We're at 53. We do have time for a few more questions, but I've noticed the scroll bar is not entirely at the bottom. It may be there's too many questions now, and the next 4 or 5 will be it. Vince asks, is there any chance to add support to the imposter to add multiple animation FBX files and merge them without using a program like Blender. I presume you mean importer. To add multiple animation FBX files and merge them without using a program. You can already do that, can't you? Oh, I didn't mean to do that. Click Control I, importer. Let's go to my dragon. Do we have a dragon? Come on, dragon. Where are you? Get the dragon in. So we have something called in the importer. We have an animation tool. There's no animations because I think that's currently got no animations in it. If there was bones in this model, this would change and it would actually allow you to add an animation file. And if your animation file is an FBX, so be it. But then you can add another animation file, another animation file, another animation file. And then when you export using this, so you import the object and create it into a real GameGuru Max object, it will contain all of these animations, separate animation files that you specified, in a single file that's also built into the object itself. So you can actually do that right now. If you are using certain files that aren't working with GameGuru Max, you're probably looking at a bug. In which case, use the issues board to report on that, because that's one of the things I think is super powerful, that you can bring in a model that may or may not have a rig. If it has a rig, you can then specify animations that apply to that object, use the rig, and now you've got an object that does lots of different animations. And within this area as well, in the importer, you can name those animations, and in the script and in the behavior editor, you can point at those animations to trigger when certain things in your game logic happen. So that's what we want. We want that ability to import lots of things and then let you create the logic to do what you want with those things. Okay, question mark underneath that is sitting on its own. Thank you, Doctor. Dirt Basic was incredible, but where are we on integrating multiplayer? See previous answer. Pretty categorical. Thank you for the question mark, though. All right then, how long for multiplayer? See above. Multiplayer, so popular. J Birdmax, live games. Not sure if you can have a player star that doesn't show at the beginning, but if so, you could have it spawn in when going through the level exit, then jump next level back, question mark, maybe. Yeah, okay. Don't really know how to answer that. It reads more like a statement with a question mark on the end. Maybe. Synchro62, at Lee, have you got a Quest 3 yet? I bought one, works great with Max. Oh, that's good to know. If you haven't, you should get one out of petty cash, as you will need one for Max. I have the Quest 1, I have the Quest 2. I have seen all the previews of Quest 3. It looks awesome. Really awesome, actually. I think they've pulled the stops out for that one. I don't have one because I'm just focused, ridiculously obsessed right now about fixing bugs. That's all I'm doing. I'm eating and breathing and sleeping bug fixing. Be great if we got to 0 bug count, because the fun starts then, including investing more in the conversations over VR. A lot of people think it's a bit of a niche and a bit of a flash in the pan. I don't. I think VR is the early doors of a whole new form of entertainment that will eventually be mass market. And no, I don't have the Quest 3. I will be getting one soon. I have lots of other things. I have the Pico, if anyone knows the Pico. Don't listen to the rumours. It's not been officially announced that there's anything wrong with Pico. Their technology is as good as the Quest stuff. It really is nice. But I'll be looking to get the Quest 3 when it's appropriate, i.e. tested for compatibility. But I guess thank you in advance, because you've already tested compatibility and it works great. So I'm really pleased about that. We're based on OpenXR, and the whole point of that technology is that you only have to write it once. And then any future hardware that comes out that supports that API means any software you've written for that API will auto work with that hardware. Never as easy as that, especially when they keep changing the buttons on the controllers. But generally speaking, that was the plan. And I'm glad to hear that it's worked out well for the Quest 3. Okay, question. I wasn't sure if I should ask about multiplayer. Yeah, multiplayer question. Next one. just, what is this? There's a lot of question mark from Synchro62 regarding keys. Can we have the if used back to link them over a vast distance that's currently not working? It's working in the latest EXP build. I added it because someone posted a very good point that, Lee, what if we have more than more than 8 doors for a key? It's like, yeah, you're right there, because at the moment you have to use the logic link to actually, talky. Let me just show you. So if we get a door, and then we get a key. I think we already added a key, didn't we? We'll get a key. With the logic link system, which is here, this little head, you can actually drag that to there. And now you've associated that key with that door, which means you collect this key, run up to that door that's locked, use the key to open the door, door opens and you can get through. Hooray. But there's only 10 of these link lines. So what if you had 10 doors? That's fine. What if the door was on the other side of the level? Who wants to drag a line that far? What if there's more than 10 doors? So that's the purpose of this question. There is a system that instead of this, so if we delete that, you can literally just go into developer settings and there's something called if used. Sorry, use key. Let me just click the door. Sorry, I'm getting you right. So click the door. There's something called use key. You give the name here and then just name that key to that name. And you can use that key on as many doors as you want. And those doors can be millions of miles away. Well, up to 5 kilometers away. And that actually works in the latest EXP version. It has been fixed. It was reported as a bug and we fixed it. So it works now. Hooray! Okay, Monkey Frog Studio asks currently a loot drop as a single setting for percentage of drop, but there are 10 items. I knew you'd ask that. I knew someone would ask that. You're right. It's basically 1% probability ratio for all of the objects you've listed. One of the original designs was we really want a number for each of the objects, but you know, and this is a good subject of conversation. At what point do we not put it in the UI, but then give it over to something like a spreadsheet, like a Google Sheets? Because if you look at AAA development, especially RPG, they don't use these vast, complicated, custom bespoke UIs. They just use a spreadsheet because it's easier to manage large number of items with all of the categories of those items. And I think it's the same here. At some point, you kind of don't want to sort of gobbledygook your UI just to cram it all in when you can actually put it on a spreadsheet and manage it cleaner and quicker and better. And when you make a change to your spreadsheet and save, boom, it instantly updates in your game project. You can just run instead of diving down a couple of nests of UI to actually find a tiny little number that you can change. But I digress. Have we got to that point yet, or do you want to see when we click on, say, let's get out of logic mode, click on this character and we go on to, have I clicked my character? Okay, yes. What about you? Behaviors, and we go to here. See, there's a lot of space given over to this drop down. What if instead of this number down here, you have a number down the right hand side that you can enter manually? I think there's plenty of space in the UI for that. Let me know through Discord and other channels if you think that's a good idea. Not too difficult to do. We'll just store the number as part of the selection in some clever and wonderful way. Believe it or not, all of these are actually stored in a single string separated by a semicolon using the existing data structure, so we don't have to add any more memory usage. It's just a very clever way of doing it. I digress. I'm patting myself on the back now, aren't I? Okay, let's find another question. Oh no, Luke, we've just left the hour. But OBS may have stole 4 minutes off us, so we'll add that back. So we've got another 2 minutes. Let's see who's got another question, and it is from... I don't know who it's from. That's the last question, wasn't it? Percentage. So you get another one, Monkey Frog. For example, may want the IP to drop it a little. Yeah, absolutely understand. It's something that I was considering. It was just that the final design just popped it in at the end because it was a nice separate value. Tenebra Gaming Development. Is Dave Lister hiding behind you? Oh, his Smega General Turn on that side of the pond. It is very much Red Dwarf. I don't think I've heard of Smeg outside of the manufacturer of fridges. But if you watch Red Dwarf long enough, it becomes part of your own personal lexicon. But I don't think a lot of people use it in this country, just nerds like me. Okay. Here's a question from the doctor. Can I easily make a craft that flies autonomously without crashing whilst the player mucks about on board doing all manner of things? There are no plans to allow craft that fly autonomously without crashing whilst the player mucks about inside it. Maybe someone in the community wants to create that. That's absolutely fine. And I do say there are ways to do it. There are no plans to do it officially right now. You know the question from Jade Max, can we please get more questions? No, because this is the end of the broadcast. But we'll see if there is any more. Can you export the games to mobile devices on Android, iOS? Okay, forget the Windows CE, but what about... Yeah, we're not planning to export to Windows CE or anything else. Just Windows 10 and above is what we support in GameGuru Max Land. And there are no current plans to export to other platforms. We got our hands full just getting the Windows version ready. Don't you agree? Another question, can GameGuru Max do racing games, or is that something that will be implemented? Can't do racing games out of the box, so if you buy GameGuru Max expecting to do a racing game, you'll be very disappointed. A dedicated scripter with the right ability to create models could create a racing game in GameGuru Max now, but it'd be very much bespoke and very clever and very cool to see. Hint, hint. There are no plans to do that right now. We'll focus on first and third person. But I think it's inevitable, and I have seen a couple of projects already where some kind of vehicle, flying or otherwise, wouldn't make it into the pantheon at some point in the future. I'm not dismissing it. I think it's a natural evolution. Once we've done all the basics, you'll go into those sorts of realms. And a vehicle becomes a couple of vehicles, becomes a racetrack, becomes a racing game. It's a natural progression, but I think it will happen organically. So I'm not going to scroll to the end of the live chat because we really have run out of time, and I do want to keep these things to a reasonable time frame, i.e. 1 hour is already too long for most people's attention spans, so I think we can leave it there. So I hope you enjoyed the end of the month live broadcast. I will be here as usual next month to reveal A, anything anyone wants to share from the community, B, any progress over the previous 30 days that excited me or I wanted to share, and C, of course, your wonderful and beautiful questions and my ridiculous and short answers to them. And this gets filed away on YouTube as an archive of all of the GameGuru Max content over the many years of development, and we'll look back on it and we'll laugh. That in 5 years' time we'll actually find we've got a pretty solid game maker that does what you need, where you can sit down, imagine some wonderful little game you want to make, and within a couple of hours you've made it and it's on sale on Steam. Ah well, we can always dream. So thanks very much for joining me. I will scroll to the end of the live chat in case you want to read all the goodbyes and thank yous and all the rest of it. And of course see all the questions that never quite got answered. If you stick around 30 days from now, remember your questions, ask them at the start of the live broadcast, and we'll be happy to answer them in chronological order. So until next month, thank you very much for listening to me witter on, and I'll speak to you all again in 30 days. Until then, I shall say goodbye.